All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Austin Doms Coffee Talk series. I'm Lorena Legarreta, Chair of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. And this month, we are celebrating mental health awareness. Today, I'm very excited because we have a very special guest with us today. Jamie Tafayan is the Executive Director of the Capital Area Counseling. Capital Area Counseling. She's a licensed professional counselor, and she serves on the advisory board of the Mike and Sherry Project. Her professional career has been served advocating for mental health services throughout the community. And I'm excited to have her here because she is a powerhouse in this industry and what she does. And we're excited to have her join us today. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to hear a little bit more about, what you're doing over at CAC. I'm excited to hear about the Mike and Sherry Project and all the work that you've done with them. And I will kind of step away and let you kind of get started.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad to be able to be here to chat with everyone and answer any questions anyone has. So just to start off, Capital Area is where I call home, is the agency that I work for. We've been around for about 40 years, and we provide high quality, low cost counseling. So the clients that come to us come from all over Austin, any part of Austin. We don't have any demographic area that we serve just specifically. And our sliding scale goes from $15 up to $60. So, I mean, there's just pretty much no one at 60. So the bottom part of the scale is really the part of the community that we're serving the most. We got reached out to probably mid 2019 by Sam Helmenmas that owns Suerte. He had heard about us from a couple of his staff members, and he wanted to know how could he connect the people that are working for him with mental health services in a more easily accessible, making it comfortable for them kind of way. And we started talking about what the options were. And that's when essentially he came up with the Mike and Sherry Foundation, and we were the providers that he selected to launch that. I don't know how many people know Mike and Sherry, but they are amazing. I got to meet that couple through this process. And they are just the greatest people. I mean, Sherry will make you brownies just like you become her child the second that you meet her. She's just a wonderful, wonderful person. I feel blessed just to know them and to be a part of the initiative, just even in the smallest way. So how the Mike and Sherry Project actually works is that there's two different ways you can connect with services through that. You can be a contracted restaurant, and at this point, I think we've got about 22, 23 restaurants that are linked up directly with Capital Area. And then you can just be someone who works in the hospitality industry, just anywhere in Austin. Doesn't have to be a contracted restaurant, literally anywhere. And I'm pretty loose with the phrase, like bar and restaurant. Like, we just got reached out to by Casey's Snowballs, and I don't know if anyone else loves them like I do, but they were like, can we contract? I was like, yes, absolutely you can. Pretty much anyone that is in service to me falls into that demographic. So regardless of what industry or what restaurant or what bar, all of that falls into that wheelhouse for me. So if you are a restaurant that's contracted, so the owner or manager decides to set up a memorandum of understanding with CAC, that means that they will need to send me, just me, so no one else has this list, but the employee list for the people that work at their agency. So whatever bar, whatever restaurant it is, I just need a full employee list. And that includes management, that includes owners, literally anyone that touches that restaurant or that bar in any way can be on that contract. And the reason that I ask for the employee list is because we want to make sure there's anonymity in reaching out for mental health services. So if you want to see a therapist, but you don't want everyone on staff to know, totally, that's the way it works. I assign everybody a client number. So when you reach out, you email me directly, and my email, I can provide that in the chat in just a second. But whoever works on your staff, you just let them know that you have that contract with CAC. They email me, jamie@cacaustin.org, and say, hey, I've been thinking about maybe seeing a therapist. I have no idea how to do this, is usually how the email starts. What do I do from here? How do I get these services? and we probably a week or two, maybe 2 weeks, they are set up with a therapist and matched in the process, and they get scheduled and they're seeing a therapist. At the beginning of every month, I send each contracted restaurant a invoice. So when you contract with us, it's an agreement on the restaurant's part to pay a portion of the agreed fee. So when we built Mike and Sherry, we decided we'd go with $25, which is a good, reasonable, pretty low for Austin. Usually it's about, I don't know if you guys have done a lot of digging around the Austin area, but the rates for therapy are getting up there. They're 150, 180, 200, which is great. People in private practice, kudos, but not everybody can pay that. I know that that is definitely a category I fall into. So I'm always looking for people that are offering affordable, high quality services too. So the restaurant agrees to pay $15 of each session, and then the people on your staff end up paying $10 each time they come to see a therapist. So flat rate every time, $10. And then once that invoice comes to your restaurant, you have pretty much your window of time to send in the payment. I'm not like, it has to be on the first of the month. That's not definitely the way we do it. Some people pay every 3 months. Some people pay once a month. I trust that whoever is contracted is good for it. And I know right now, especially with the way that the last year has been with, year and a half actually now, that it's been pandemic, it's been tricky for a lot of folks.
Jamie, you kind of mentioned, and I think you touched on something, is that, it's been such a difficult time, and I love the work that you're doing. It's so needed, especially right now during this time. But I'll be honest, I think several of our restaurateurs and service industry individuals, I think they don't know, they're just suffering through anxiety and all this transition, all this pivoting that everybody's going through. It's so difficult. What kind of maybe coping mechanisms or techniques would you suggest that someone could maybe put in place, as if they're starting to feel that anxiety? I mean, what are some steps or something that you would suggest?
That's a great question. I think that's across the board, but even more so in the hospitality industry. I mean, they have really carried it on their backs for people who needed to stay home. But I mean, you guys have been out there just killing it, making everything, providing everything. It's anxiety from the very start. So I think one of the biggest problems is that people are setting such a high bar for what they're expecting of themselves. I mean, self-care right now is so important. Everybody's really feeling a lot of anxiety. So coping mechanisms, I hear so many people say, well, I'm gonna exercise every day, or I'm gonna eat healthy. And I wish that and those are great. This is not me poo-pooing on those things, but that isn't necessarily probably the best bar to set for just even anyone who's going through a pandemic. It's just the act of doing nothing is actually doing something, and giving yourself grace just to not do something right now. Like right now, I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to Netflix something. I'm going to read a book. I'm not going to set this bar where I have to go and I have to train for a 5K, or I'm going to run a marathon in this pandemic year. Don't do that to yourself. That it's not a necessity. Focus on the things that matter, like brain health, like doing things to keep your brain active. There's some really great apps you can put on your phone, like Luminosity. And let me type that in the chat so you have those too. Just a way to keep yourself active without feeling like you have to go and run a marathon. So that's a great app. There's a lot of different ways to really just detach and stay socially connected to your circle. Definitely keep texting, keep calling, keep hanging out with people in a, much easier now, acceptable, socially distanced way, which I really hate that term. I feel that it should have been physically distanced, because socially distanced in a pandemic is possibly the worst thing you can do to yourself. Like definitely stay connected to your people, but you don't have to start yoga. You don't have to set that bar where you're going to learn a new language. And that's wonderful. If you did that over the pandemic, great. That's good for you. I clap for that. But if the thing that you did was started a chapter of a book and then Netflix binged like 10 different series, kudos for that too, because that is also achieving something that brought you happiness and calm. And those are important things. And you can eat healthy food, but also let yourself have that moment where you get to just eat what makes you happy. Right now, it's about taking care of yourself. Like, oh, maybe you had to buy a pair of pants that was a size larger. Welcome to the pandemic world with the rest of us. That's kind of where we're all at right now. We're just, some people will come out of this with a six pack, and some of us will come out calm because we read some books, we put our feet up a little bit, and we tried to deal with our anxiety in a healthy way. And just remembering, even if what you do is get up during a commercial break on your show and walk around your house a little bit, you're doing something healthy for your body in that moment. It doesn't have to be you going for a walk around the block. You have to set reasonable, healthy goals that don't overwhelm you. When you're already in a situation filled with anxiety, the last thing that you need is to give yourself more reasons to be anxious, or a list of to-dos that you didn't check off today. Can I do it tomorrow? Or the next thing, or the next thing. Give yourself something that you're looking forward to doing that actually brings you joy. I mean, that's how you squash at least a little bit of the anxiety. But, and also knowing that that anxiety is there with a lot of people right now, and it's going to be there for a little while. It's going to be scary for folks even now that we're starting to lift the mask mandate and start to really get back out there and open up all the way. It's going to be hard for quite a few people to make that transition back. Just remembering that staff, especially when you're going through this, it's gonna take them some time. There's gonna be a lot of feelings about it. Now more than ever, they should be reaching out for help if they need it at CAC. Even if you're not contract, doesn't matter. We have a huge pool of money that's there to help them. So if they're like, $20, I can't afford it, tell them don't worry, tell them reach out anyway, that we already took care of that. We saved so much money for them, and we will help them with finances, whatever, that's fine.
You know, Jimmy, you also touch on, you know, as owners or managers, supervisors, you know, sometimes we have a hard time dealing, or how to support, I should say, how to support our staff the right way. You know, what are steps we can take to maybe to help support that staff? I mean, I love, you know, being able to actually connect them with you, definitely. But, you know, in the moment, you're probably not thinking, and you're probably like, you know, I just need you to get to work. I mean, you know, these are thoughts that cross my mind as, you know, as a manager, as an operator. But, you know, how do you support your staff in the right way, or maybe some steps to help that?
I think the best way to do that is to really normalize asking for help. I mean, if you can lead by example, that's great. Like, I see a therapist, almost everyone I know does. We talk about it really openly. Even if you're not seeing your therapist now, maybe you did a while ago, normalizing that conversation so that someone who is utilizing that service feels like, oh, well, like everybody does this. Like even the person that owns this place does that. Like if they can do it, I could do it. That kind of conversation really changes the stigma against protecting your mental health and working on yourself. And anytime someone in leadership can set that example, that's huge. Making sure that if you're asking them, do they need additional assistance, that you're doing it in a way that says, I'm asking because I'm caring about what's happening to you. I can see that you're struggling. And it's not a punitive, I want you to go and see a therapist. It's like, I really think that it would be great for you. It was great for me. Those kinds of conversations, any way to normalize it. Sharing that anxiety is something so many people are feeling right now. Is there anything they've done in the past before that's helped them? Are they able to connect with times when they were feeling less anxious, and what were they doing then? Obviously it's tricky this year because you can't do a lot of the things you did before. But if you can think about a time when you weren't feeling quite so anxious, or you were feeling more joy, were you reading more? Were you getting more sleep? Was there something specifically that you were doing that was helping you feel those ways that you're doing less of now? Maybe they haven't even taken notice that that part of their life has shifted. So many people being at home, all of a sudden now they're at-home teachers, they're feeling that stress. Their relationship was good before they were together all the time, and now they're feeling that stress. It's just compounding, and any layer you can peel back is so helpful.
And, you know, my other question is this, often, I don't have children, but, you know, most of our staff have children. sometimes it becomes really, really stressful. You're just mentioning about, homeschooling and dealing with kids, how do you have that conversation with your children when they're asking, because that kind of adds, I think, a little bit of stress too, where, now I've got to explain pandemic, I've got to explain all this transition to my child. I've got to explain to them that they do or don't have to wear masks, or, how does someone kind of help with that?
That is, I think, a more difficult conversation for the parent than it is for the kiddo. The kiddos seem to have come through this pretty strong. They wear their masks, from what I've seen, far better than most of us adults remember to put it on and keep it on. And we're all saying like, I can't breathe, it's too much. And the kiddos leave it on, come home from school, forget to take it off. Like, for them, I think this transition isn't quite as shocking, maybe unless they're in their teens or older years. The younger kids are kind of, oh, this is just like, time isn't the same for them. So a month and a year feels very similar. But for us, and I don't know how many people had this happen to them, but for me, I didn't learn math the way that they do math now. So becoming a homeschool teacher on top of everything else I'm doing, I mean, it made me cry. I was like crying in the closet. I can't do math. How come my third graders are smarter at math than me? So we all definitely feel that. But and again, normalizing that and sitting and being really honest with your kiddo, even regardless of age, and just saying, look, I know that this is hard, and I know maybe I'm not the best teacher of this, but I'm going to try, and hopefully you can try too. And I'm going to try to learn how to do a number line, but mommy's probably not great at this. So if we need to ask the teacher some questions, or if we need to watch a YouTube video, which is incredibly helpful, by the way, YouTube teaches you how to do everything now. That's how I learned a number line. If anyone else has had that torture, help is out there. But I mean, I was in my pantry with like licorice, just like the girl in the video, probably at the beginning of the pandemic, just like, I can't do it. This is terrible. And I really needed to sit down and have that conversation with my daughters. And they were so understanding. It's stressful for them too, for sure.
Yeah, it's a difficult time, and just to put everything else on top of it is that you have to learn math a new way. And you're right, because I am from that generation that, I learned that math, the old way. So it's kind of difficult, but no, it's you're right. Kids are so resilient at some point. I think as adults, I think it's just that stress that you're dealing with on a regular basis that makes it so, at times, so overwhelming, I think. But no, I'll open up the floor for other questions. I don't want to, hog all the questions from anybody else. But if anybody else has questions, please you can unmute yourself and just ask. The one thing I'd love to touch on is how many sessions does someone get to spend with you? Is there a limit to the sessions, or, how does that work?
No, we're pretty specific at CAC about making it very client driven. So we don't take any grants or anything like that. The more of that kind of funding you take, the more that they start to like pigeonhole what your services will look like. So we just function on the money that comes through the door, and we make sure everyone knows that therapy here at CAC, well, not here because I'm in my house right now, but at CAC is there for as long as it's useful and therapeutic for you. So if you're seeing your therapist for 6 months and you just had a situational something happen and you feel like, all right, well, I've tackled that, I'm feeling really good, I feel like I have the coping mechanisms or the tools and skills that I need to tackle this on my own, so I'm gonna end my sessions and move forward. Awesome. You can see a therapist every week for the next 10 years if you want to. And we do have people that have done that. So there is no session limit. There is no amount of times that you can switch therapists. And that's a really important thing to know too. A therapist is very much like any other relationship in your life. So it's possible that the very first one you meet is not the one you want to just marry. Like, you're just going to be like, I don't feel the connection quite with this one. And that's pretty typical for any relationship you probably have had over the course of your life, except for that one person you probably know that married someone they met when they were 15 and now they have 10 children and they're so happy, because that happens too. So maybe that's you and that's awesome. But if not, you can just reach back out to me and say, hey, I didn't really feel that connection. I'm wondering if I could be matched with a new therapist. Yes, you always can, and always advocate for yourself that way. Make sure any staff member that's going to utilize the service knows that as well, that just because you didn't like the therapist that you met the first time doesn't mean therapy does not work for you or isn't what you need or isn't helpful. You can match as many times as you need to. My very first therapist I ever had, not a match. The one I have now, I love her. She is life-changing, but it is sometimes you gotta dip your toe back in the water and see, is there someone who's a better fit? Maybe you want to work with a male or a female. All of our therapists are LGBTQ friendly. All of the important things to read on a profile when you're searching for a therapist, just anywhere for anyone.
I think that's a good point. When you're looking for a therapist, I mean, what are those points that, we should be looking for? How do I know how to match myself with a great therapist, right? Is it just kind of trial and error, or can I look at something as far as our profile and say, oh, this is everything that meets my requirements?
If you're out there and searching, psychologytoday.com has a place where you can put in your zip code, and I'll type that in the chat too. So you put in your zip code and they give you a listing of everyone that's in your area. Did I spell it right? No. Hold on. Two things at once is going to be too much for me. There. So you put in your zip code and it gives you a list of everyone in your area. So that should just be your starting point. So now you've got a list of maybe 3 pages of people to look at. So go through and make sure you take the time to read their bios. They're going to tell you a little bit about how they view therapy, how they just view the human condition in general, what their therapeutic orientation is. And if you don't know what they're talking about, if they're saying, well, I'm Jungian or I'm Gestalt, totally fine. I wouldn't stress that part. The most important part of the bio is going to be getting to see, do you feel like you resonate with that person? Does that sound like the kind of person that you would be able to sit and chat with? Usually when you're able to go over a bio and pick based on that, you usually will find a pretty decent fit. One of the things that's unique about CAC though is that we have over 100 therapists, so we don't have a bio page anywhere. Essentially, when you reach out to us, you just let us know what you're looking for and what time you're available, and we try our best to match you. So there is a higher instance that you may want to just jump back in, pick a new one after a couple sessions at CAC than if you were to go out and comb through profiles and pick someone independently.
Gotcha. I think Kendall had mentioned a question here about just the wait list to see a therapist. Is there a wait list, and how long is that, or what does that look like?
If you're in the industry, like the bar and restaurant industry, and you email me directly, there isn't a wait list for that. We've set that up through Mike and Sherry, that you go onto a special list that gets paired pretty quickly. So you might have to wait. Usually it takes about a week of gathering information as far as what gender are you looking for? Do you have anything specific that you're hoping to find in your therapist? What dates and times you're looking for? And then getting you matched with the therapist. So I would expect the process to take a couple weeks. But as far as I have to wait for 4 months, no.
Excellent.
But they have to email me and let me know they're coming through Mike and Sherry so that I know that. If they just go to our website and fill out a form, they might get stuck into just the normal wait list, and that's usually about 6 to 8 weeks.
Got it. And I know you shared your email with us, and I'll make sure to get that out to everybody as far as our membership as well. So this way, anyone who's interested in partnering can definitely do that and reach out to you directly. Ladies, do you all have any other questions that we can ask, or anything that you'd like to know more about either the services provided or just Jamie in general? I'm gonna open that up. Sorry, Jamie.
No, that's okay. And I'm adding a link in the chat. This is to a referrals. Let me share my screen so I can kind of show you too, and definitely pop in with any questions. If I can figure out how to share. I don't have a share screen button.
Oh, you sure there's a,
Oh, wait, there it is. It was covered up by the other things I had opened. Sorry. Let's see. I have a Mac, so nothing ever works easy.
Well, I wanted to say hi, Jamie. It's Stacy Franklin from Franklin Barbecue.
Hello.
And give my give my 2 cents about working with you and working with the Mike and Sherry Project. We are I guess a participating restaurant, and kind of got in on the ground floor of it with a handful of other restaurants, and everything's been great. I mean, as far as I know, because I don't have any idea who actually is seeking therapy. So, as far as I know, it's going great. Those people are continuing to go. And I think the cost to be able to provide that portion from a business perspective, it makes me feel good that I can spend a very small amount of money to help the staff be able to seek therapy, because having looked for it for another family member that's not in Austin, and seeing the pricing of what therapy really costs, it's pretty prohibitive for a lot of people. So another thing that's great is the ability for Spanish speakers to have therapy. It's not just for English speakers. So anyway, just throwing that in there.
Yeah, you have a pretty good handful of folks that utilize it at your restaurant. So it's.
And I know Maribel was asking, is this only for restaurants? And I think you mentioned that the Mike and Sherry Project covers bar and restaurants, but you also offer other services as well.
Yeah, anyone who's Mike and Sherry would be in the restaurant, bar, hospitality industry. But CAC is there for anyone. So you can access the sliding scale. It's based on household size and income, and it's all self-reported. So we don't tell you like we need to have a copy of your W-2 or something like that. No, you tell us what you make, you tell us how big your household is, and we place you on the sliding scale based on that, which is why most people are right around that $20, $25 mark. It's a little bit longer of a wait if you're coming in and you're not part of Mike and Sherry, but it pops up faster than you think it will when they reach out to let you know it's your turn to be matched. So it's definitely worthwhile to get on the wait list, even if it's not Mike and Sherry.
It's been good work. I know friends in the industry that have participated in this program, and it's life-changing for them. It's been fantastic for them. So the incredible work you're doing is amazing. So thank you so much for all you do for our industry. I know we're coming up to the end of our hour or half hour. So any other questions, ladies? Otherwise, I will wrap up and we can let Jamie get to work, because otherwise I know it's going to be a busy week.
Do you mind if I quickly share just a couple
please.
things that are outside of therapy, just so you can see what all is out there? Let's see, here's my thing. So if anyone isn't aware, Integral Care does a ton of stuff for Travis County. And it's a free program. So all you have to do is call them and set up they used to have walk-ins. So I'm not quite sure if they're back to walk-ins yet, but to set up an appointment, and you can get services for just about anything you can think of. Like the website does an okay job of telling you all the things they do, but they are all over Austin and they do tons of things. So if you go to get help and just look at the list of adult services, this is some of the stuff they do. They help with counseling. You go through their intake process. You can see a doctor who can get you medications. So if you were having depression and you were like, oh, I can't afford the medication, yes, you can. If you go through Integral Care, they will get you set up. They will make sure you see someone. They help you get the care you need. They help people get on Social Security. They help with job placement, wellness, tons and tons of things. It's really a phenomenal service. And this is the community referrals that I put a link to. And this is something that CAC put together over the last few years, just of everything that's out there. So sliding scale income service or income-based services, CAC is not the only one. So if you want to kind of see what else is out there, definitely take a look at some of the places that are out there. I love Waterloo. There's just tons of places and options for healthcare. I don't know if you can see my little pointer, but I'm circling it here. all the different places you can get low income for uninsured. There's so many options. Integral Care, the one I just showed you, is here at the top because they have just so many services. But this goes on and on. I mean, legal aid, parenting for groups, for actual parenting classes, domestic violence assistance. Safe Place is really my go-to for that one, but there are other options. There are lots of different places you can call. And just if there's gender or sexuality issues or worries and you're looking for something really specific, again, I would probably pick Waterloo first. I love them. But there's just so many options. So I put that link in the chat and you can download and keep this. It's just good to have on hand if anyone needs anything like specific. And definitely just don't discount Integral Care because they do a ton of stuff.
This is excellent. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Jamie, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate everything you shared with us today, and thank you for joining us on our Coffee Talk series. So hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. And anytime you need anything or you have any questions, you can feel free to email me as well. It doesn't have to be like you only saw me here. You can always reach out and ask me any questions you have. I love helping people get mental health services. Any way I can help with that, I'm so happy to do it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jamie.
Y'all have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah.